Maneesh Dangi joins in as well. Manish, good having you, and I requested Pratik Agarwal to stay on for a bit longer as we do this conversation with both of you. You made this very interesting point yesterday on your LinkedIn, right, Manish, that when the two elephants will fight, they might be the least impacted. A lot of others will get impacted a lot more. Did I get that correct? And would India be amongst the ones which, to your mind, will get impacted a lot?
Hi, Neeraj. So it's sort of true, right? These two big elephants fighting with each other, both of them are relatively much more local economies, independent, mostly source of maybe tech and production and everything else to the rest of the world. So the impact on them would be much lesser, even though, very, very paradoxically, US's entire play is actually to hurt China the most. And China would be least hurt, and of course US would be sort of much less hurt, given the hegemonic power that they have. It is true that most other countries will be majorly affected because this. As a side, what will happen, of course, is that if US were to sort of import less, or because of higher tariffs, a lot of Chinese products would then be sold in the market and dumped rather. So to that extent, there could be a lot more effect on our economies. The only saving grace is that India also is relatively local economy. Its import export as a percentage of GDP is not as much as what you will see in East Asia and Europe, and to that extent, somewhat muted impact of India. That's the only saving grace. But I think the primary sort of point is you sort of summarized well that yes, US and China would be least affected. US's total growth impact of the oil tariffs, Neeraj, is likely to be not more than 0.5%. And it's a super strong economy right now. It can afford to do all of this.
Right. So Maneesh, when you mentioned about, how US and China will be least affected, if you have to look at the impact in terms of India, right? How are you seeing a differential between Trump 2.0 versus Trump 1.0? Is this something which will see a higher impact, or it's just a neutral, no game changer?
No, India, every other country, see, it's a zero-sum game, and in fact, it's a lose-lose game. So, to state that any country would be better off because of this really can't make out. In long run, perhaps, I think both US and China would be sort of well off because of this. But right now, everyone loses. US and China lose less. India certainly loses. So it's not a good outcome for us that these two elephants are fighting. Trump 2.0 is certainly more ideological, certainly more powerful, and certainly much more motivated. Look at the way he's trying to burn the whole bureaucracy down. In last 15, 20 days, what he's been able to achieve. To a certain extent, a lot of us voted for Modi, thinking that something similar would play out, in India as well. So, but big picture, it is pretty bad for the world growth, I think. And I don't think he is in any mood right now. And it's not about individual. I think, from a US's attempt to preserve its hegemony, it is one of the last two left to create these unnerving moves for rest of the world and, force the world to actually come to settle with their terms. Look at the point that he made with respect to BRICS yesterday also, that, if you go towards, making BRICS currency or any such things, we will impose 100% tariff and we don't just care. You need us. We don't need you. So that at a surface, superficial level looks like a very, very arrogant country. But it's basically that's the way the realistic, war games, geopolitical games are played. And Trump is, after a very, very long time, is playing that same game again because it's in the need of it. Today China has the momentum that it's not a sort of fair chance that China would surpass US in 10, 20 years in every single matter. And US wants to preserve that, and tariff is one such way of actually doing what it wanted to achieve for itself.
So, Pratik, come in. On you just heard Manish mention this as well, right? The question that comes to the optimist's mind, if you will, is that if the US is fighting that battle against China predominantly, right? And I believe that's a bit of an open secret here. It would much rather have the second strongest emerging economy out of Asia as an ally as opposed to a foe? And could that therefore be that in rhetoric, it will be equal for everybody, but, and we know the kind of, if I can use a lack of a better term, a bonhomie between Trump and Modi, that equations might be slightly better for India. So Maneesh is right that everybody else will hurt. Could India hurt less? And would that be taken constructively by risk assets like equities in India?
No, so agree with him on many points. So if tariffs are imposed and stuff gets expensive in the US, overall demand in the US should be expected to fall, which is not good for global growth. But at the same time, one has to understand that US is living way beyond its means anyways. So I see tariffs also as a tool to get in some money. Now, if there is a war, well, in war, there are allies, there are foes. If you think that, people are going to slug it out, they would want friends who would do some bit of it on their side. So we could be, the people who is wooed by both sides. And that can be a very happy situation. So if you see the past few months and the developments all around, we really are in a position where people are trying to have us on their side, and that can be pretty positive. I think the negative, but that said, win for India would be, significant gain in market share in the US. Only after that, we will gain in spite of a slowdown that will be there because of increased duties and inflation and so on. So
Point well
it's
noted.
not a straight line, this thing. But
Got
I'm
it.
very hopeful we win. Any country who allies with the US does very well or has done very well, at least in the initial 8-10 years. After that, things can change. But the first 8-10 years are usually nice.
Manish, how would you respond to that? I mean, and again, I mean, it's kind of weaves in with what I was trying to ask, that in some sense, India is not coming out here as a non-ally. If anything, India is coming out as an ally of the US. Will it still hurt bad?
See, the US is actually behaving like a mercantilist nation. To think of US, see what they did to the fairness scream came to what you call Canada and Mexico first. You couldn't really imagine, something what he did to both the countries, and it's sort of likely that something similar would happen to Europe as well.
I
It's a very, very mercantilist sort of a viewpoint that that the trade is zero sum. So you could think of US being an ally in defense and such things. This is an independent policy that and he announced reciprocal tariffs yesterday. And in the press meet also when Modi was there, he said we are being fair. Whatever you impose, we'll impose equally to you. And sort of at the face of it, US has been sort of quote unquote ideological buffoon in last, since 1990 to have been practicing this laissez-faire that anyone can come and dump anything. And therefore, that has hollowed out US manufacturing in last 30-40 years. And of course, China has won majorly because of those policies. And so Trump is being extremely realist and simply unwinding the so-called these ideological liberal policies. And I don't think there is a case of being ally or non-ally here. Everything is a trade, and we ought to give. And we actually export a large amount. We run a $45-50 billion of trade surplus. He wants you to sort of now. Can you buy more defense? The Modi ji said yes. Can you buy more food? That will hurt our farmers, but we have no other option. And something similar will happen to a lot of Harley Davidson to a certain case is coming to you most likely cheaper sooner than later. So it is, as I said, in geopolitics, there are no friends, Chief. And my sense is that, yes, friends to the extent that if there going to be a bipolarity and, US and China were to fight and, someone were to insist that either you are with me or against me, I think we will stand with US. But that's it. Beyond that, nothing much. As far as markets and economics are concerned, these are turbulent times. And I think, as I said, to repeat, that everyone is worse off in this. Least worse off are China and US. I think India is one of the better ones not because we are allied, but just because we just don't trade much with the world.
Okay.
And that's why we are okay.
Okay. Well, so let's see if cheap Harley Davidsons come in, and if you or Prateek, Maneesh, were to buy one, please let us know. Would love to take a spin on your vehicles for sure. Journalist salaries don't afford a Harley Davidson.
Buy domestic brands. Everybody in the world is doing that.
Okay, maybe that too. But gentlemen, we got to wrap it up here. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time out and being with us and giving us your thoughts.